Hello everyone, and today we're back into another top 5. And today we're talking about the top 5 most boring Loomians in Loomian Legacy. So, the top 5 boring Loomians are basically Loomians that are just not that fun to use, and also not very fun to go up against. So, yeah, expect a lot of stall Loomians to be on this list. So yeah, let's head right into the top 5 right now. So, number 5 onto this list, it's actually going to be kind of a shocker because the first one on this list is Wintrix, and the reason why Wintrix is on this list is because of its ability. Wise. It can run different abilities, like it can run Chilled, it can run Glide, but this is basically specifically talking about the Wise Wintrix. If any move is not very effective, it will double the power, basically making it neutral. Very good ability, make sure that there's no swap-ins, but predicting the swaps makes the game more fun in my eyes. Like trying to predict which Loomian will come in is the fun of Loomian Legacy PvP. So if you basically throw that away, it's gonna make Wintrix a little bit boring to use. And honestly, like Wintrix is a good Loomian. There's no doubt about that. Wintrix is very good at PvP. This is just telling us on how fun it is to use in PvP. And it's alright. Like, it's alright for an offensive Loomian, but keep in mind, this is an offensive Loomian, not a defensive Loomian. And there are a lot of offensive Loomians which are way more fun. Like, Nevermare has the chance to crit. Like, Nevermare has the chance to critical hit. Dorgo and Wrestling hits very hard with their abilities. Also, there's a couple other things, like Metatoad, who has Cycle Stop that can just nuke. Like, there's really... Wintrix is just not that fun to use, mainly because of Wise, and it is alright. I like Wintrix, and it can be very useful, but it's just not that fun to use. And that's why Wintrix is number 5 onto the list. It could also be quite annoying if you get caught on the wrong hand. Number 4 onto this list, it's actually going to be Sprayzy. And there's not really even a shock that Sprayzy's even on this list. This also counts Odasho, just like every other time we count Sprayzy. Odasho also counts here too. This thing should be fun to use. This thing should be fun to use. It has so many different moves, but the problem is that the moves that it has are some of the most annoying moves in the game. Poison Barbs, Hypnotize, Dodge, Sap Plant, Pestilence, Return to Sender, Provoke. It's just not that fun to use Sprayzy, and it's not fun to go up against them. Like, keep in mind, that's a Mutagon. A Mutagon did only half to a Sprayzy. It just shows how annoying it is. And oh, if you think Sprayzy's annoying, Odasho is even more annoying. Odasho pretty much does the same thing, but it's even more tanky and even trickier to defeat. So, yeah. Like, these guys are fine. I like using them from time to time, but they're just not that fun to use. They're basically the definition of stall. And as someone who is an offensive player, I'm not the big fan of this. Like, it takes too long. Like, they take way too long to do their sweep. It's like, they're kind of like a sweeper, but it takes forever. It takes 30 minutes sometimes to actually get what you need done out of them. I would just rather use something that's heavy offensive, and that's why Sprayzy and Odasho are on the list. You can also run offensive versions of Sprayzy, but they're just not as fun to use. So, yeah. Number 3 onto this list is actually going to be Tundraland. And if there's a Loomian that negates 95% of melee attackers in the entire game, then it's probably a very boring Loomian to use. I mean, this thing literally negates 95% of melee attackers. With Resilience and Body Crash and Bulk Up, in 130 melee defense, this thing pretty much destroys the entire meta, because no melee attackers want to hit this thing, because you give it Resilience, and then it sweeps with Body Crash. Like, I'm still absolutely shocked how this Loomian got past the drawing board, and it could be alright when you have a couple resiliences already up, but they're just going to swap in into their range attacker, and then you have to swap out, and then go back in, then they go to their range attacker, you swap out, and it takes forever to deal with this thing. And it takes forever to play around this thing, too. You either gotta set up a lot, or Driving's Force it. Because, yeah, even Provoke doesn't work. Not even Provoke really works against this thing, because that's Body Crash. So, Tundraland is just very tough, and it has solid range bulk too. It doesn't just have a melee defense. Like, there's the Illuminami. Illuminami does, I don't know, 50 to 60 damage when it hits me. And keep in mind, it's a range attacker. And it may not be the hardest hitting one, but it's a range attacker. Like, look at that. It does nothing! And it's just giving me free resilience boost, and it's just completely sweeping this match. And it makes sense why Tundraland's one of the most boring Loomians in the game, because, you know, it just sits there and soaks every single hit, and it takes forever to get the sweep. So let's get on to number 2, because number 2 on this list is actually going to be Venolin. And I know what you're thinking, why is Venolin worse than Tundraland? While this doesn't negate quite as many range attackers, since it's a poison type, it's way more annoying. Plus, I think it's a little faster. It can give you heavy shackles, which is just annoying. It also has, Rejuvenate. I think it's easier to use Rejuvenate on Venolin than it is on Tundraland. And plus, it has very solid melee bulk as well. Not amazing, but has some very solid melee bulk. But the reason why Venolin is on this list is because of this clip right here. Venolin versus Venolin. It's probably the most boring matchup of all time. If you have a Venolin versus a Venolin, you will not win, no matter what Venolin set you are, unless you're Charade. And even then, it might not even work, because all you can do is swap out. So Venolin versus Venolin matchups are so boring. They take forever. I actually needed to forfeit this battle because it took so long. It takes forever. And also, Venolin is just one of the toughest range tanks in the game, so it just makes it so tough to penetrate. It's so tough to get through, and it takes so much effort. And it even has the extra fact that it can poison you. The fact that it can also poison you, this adds more, just adds the nail in the coffin for Venolin. And that's why Venolin is the number 2 most boring Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. Although, this is only number 2, we still have number 1 left. And I think everyone knows who number 1 is going to be. So, yeah. Let's get right into number 1 right now. So, number 1, the most boring Loomian in the game is Eclipse. And this may be shocking to some people because it is an offensive Loomian that has very solid stats. It's Total Eclipse, though. Total Eclipse gives it more immunities than weaknesses, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that the immunities are Dark, Light, and Spirit. Pretty high offensive typings right there, especially Dark. And Eclipse is used on 50% of teams, not even joking, 50% of I Eat Your Tournament's teams in the tournament because of that feature. Mainly because it has more immunities and weaknesses and can get a speed boost. Yes, it's used on 50% of teams because this thing is annoying. And it's definitely the most broken Loomian on this list. And yeah, Eclipse. It's Eclipse. It's so annoying and boring. We already know what its Eclipse is going to do. It only can run really one moveset as well, and that's the reason why Eclipse is pushed to number 1, unlike Venolin, who's still number 2. But yeah, Eclipse, the most boring Loomian in the entire game by a long shot. So yeah, so here it is, the most boring Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. And it's nothing to say, I do still like using Eclipse personally, but it's definitely one of the most boring Loomians to use. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5, and if y'all have any boring Loomians that you want to talk about, tell them in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!